Welcome back to Booze and Rocks. My name is David Edwards, and today I'm making a zombie cocktail for Steve. Let's get into it. All right, let's talk about the zombie. And I'm not talking about those rotting, dead corpses that come shambling after your brains. No, I'm talking about the cocktail. And the cocktail was created by Ernest Gant. Now, who is that, you say? Okay, Ernest Gant is, or was, I should be more specific, an American explorer, businessman, and World War II veteran. And that's pretty cool. In 1933, after the repeal of Prohibition in the US, he opened up a bar called Don Beachcombers in Hollywood. Not long after that, he created the zombie cocktail. And it is arguably the most famous cocktail that he's known for. And there's a lot of different versions about this. Now, a little bit closer to the end of the 30s, he actually changed his name to Don Beach. And now you know how Don Beachcomber and Don the Beachcomber sort of come about. Okay? The reason I'm doing this cocktail today was for a friend of mine, Steve. He asked me to do this cocktail, and I was holding off until Halloween, which makes it more theme-esque. However, he passed away a few days ago. And Steve was this awesome guy that I used to game with, and I used to have these incredible conversations with, everything from history to the military, as he was also a former member of the Canadian Forces. And you know what? This cocktail and him, why not? We're gonna make this happen. So the first thing we need, of course, is your shaking glass. And this has lots of rum in it. So the first thing we're going to use is a Golden Rum, and I'm using a plantation rum here. And this is a Barbados rum. We need 1.5 ounces or 45 milliliters. And that was a little bit big. So that's probably closer to 1 3/4 ounce. Next we need a Jamaican rum. And I'm using Fortress rum here. And it's originally from Jamaica, but it's actually stored in the Magson de Roy in Nova Scotia, which is right on the edge of the ocean and is part of the old fort. Magson de Roy also stands for King's Store. Now we need another 1.5 ounces of this, or 45 mils. So we got a fair amount here. However, we also need 1 ounce of Gosling's 151 rum. This is gonna knock your socks off. And 1 ounce of this comes out to, of course, 30 mils. And this is how you know it's gonna be painful. I can already tell right now, this is gonna be really, really strong. Next on my list of things we need, of course, is Falernum. Now the recipe I'm using comes from the Educated Barfly, and I'll link down below. And he used a velvet Falernum. I have B.G. Reynolds Falernum here, and I'll use this. We need 1/2 ounce or 15 milliliters. So the other thing that we need is Donn's mix. And for a long time, this was a very closely held secret. And we need 1/2 ounce of this. And I'll put the recipe for this down below, but I'm using the same recipe that the Educated Barfly put out, which of course is a 2-to-1 ratio of grapefruit juice and a cinnamon syrup with the specs down below. And we need 1/2 ounce. Now 1/2 ounce is 15 mils. Next we need a little bit of absinthe. So I've got Hill's Absinthe here. This is a 70% absinthe. And what I'm going to do here is we have to measure this out. So I'm going to put a little bit in my cup. Oops, that's more than a little bit. And we need 6 drops. And what do you do with a 70% alcohol? You don't jam it back in the bottle, you shoot it straight. Oh, wow, whoa. Oh, ouch, painful. Not painful, but you know what I mean. The next thing we need is 75 ounces, actually 3/4 ounce or 0.75 ounces of lime juice. That works out to 22.5 mils. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut my lime, but I'm going to cut it slightly asymmetrical, so one side is bigger. And I have specific reasoning for that because I'm going to use this for the garnish. So I'll squeeze this one out first. We'll just put that right there. And I'm just gonna put that off to the side there. Gonna come back here, squeeze the rest of it out. And here we are. Yes, it's looking really, really good. Now, unfortunately, I didn't make any grenadine for this. I've ran out, so I'm broken down and have stuck with having to use Rose's grenadine. And we need 1 teaspoon, which is 5 mils, so I'm gonna use a bar spoon of this. Looking not so bad. And the final thing we need is some bitters. And I'm going to use some Angostura bitters here, and we need 1 dash. We're gonna add a little bit of ice, and we're gonna shake this for a good 10 to 15 seconds. If I can figure out how to use my tongs, because my tongs are very non-usable by me. And just try not to make a mess. Put that in there like so. Put that off to the side. Dry your hands off because I've made a mess on my hands. So what I'm going to do is use a fancy beer glass. Now, Steve was a beer guy as well, so we got the beer glass for him. And this is gonna be filled with crushed ice. We're gonna put about 3/4 of the way crushed ice in here. Not that cute. My crushed ice is not being very helpful today. Gonna take my Hawthorne strainer, and nothing is working right for me today. And we're gonna pour this in here like so. I'm going to add just a little bit more crushed ice. Awesome, look at that color. It's a beautiful looking drink. But we're not done. Now we need to garnish this, and we can garnish this a couple of ways. The first thing we're going to do is I recommend using a little bit of mint. Chop your end off here, jam it in there so it looks nice and pretty. So you've got this nice little mint sprig. Except, remember this? We're gonna use a little bit, oops, just a little bit of the 151. And we're gonna light this on fire because we're sending out Steve with a bang. Well, you know what? We'll just put that there. Look at that. That is a zombie. Burning flames, an awesome looking drink. And I better close this bottle before I set fire to my bar. Now I gotta figure out how to actually put that out. Take a little bit of that, just pour it in there. Give yourself a straw, sir. And there you go. Smells good, you get a little bit of mint. You get that cooked mint sort of just on the edges because of where the flame was. Oh, that's strong. I can see why Steve liked this. It's really good too. Oh yeah. You know what? That is a really good drink. Steve, this is your zombie. Created the zombie in the 1930s. Now, I just can't even make it sound reasonable. Don's Beachcomber. Now that restaurant was opened up in, I called it a restaurant, it's a bar really,